Good morning, YouTube. Zioku here. Just want to say sorry that I haven't uploaded a video in a while. I'm recovering from waking pneumonia, just an acute waking pneumonia. Still on my antibiotics, but done with my steroids. If you hear me cough, I apologize. But hopefully I'll get you we're working on a Mouchette video today. And then after Mouchette, we'll work on G. Murphy. Have had a few questions on how to play her Lemurian team, as well as some other comps. But with that introduction out of the way, let's get into it. Today we're going over Mouchette. She is our collaboration unit with the game Mist Sequence. Mist Sequence is end of service, unfortunately, and it was already end of service before she was even added to the game. It's kind of one of the reasons why they decided to use Mist Sequence, was because it was end of service. This is Mouchette, and these are her wheels that came with it. Doomsday Rampage and Light of Intellect. Her personal passe is from the Mist Realm here. And she's an Awaker that is designed completely around strikes and using a lot of strikes. So if we go over her kit real quick. Her stats at level 60, con and defense are about average, while her attack is, above average. So stats overall, pretty good. Her strike and defense on the surface, they look just like normal strikes and defenses. Even her Enlightens, they don't particularly affect her strikes and defense. But she has a lot of effects that enhance strikes. Not defenses. Her defense will stay normal. But her strikes, even though it looks like it does only 36 damage, with all of the additional multipliers and added buffs, your strikes are hitting for a lot harder than what you think they're going to be hitting in. Mist Realm Vestige. Over here, this is a Rouse. Dramatic Encounter. So Dramatic Encounter is her talent. It's her passive. Hit counts +2. So after you play that, her passive does 2 more hits. Each time Dramatic Encounter triggers, Mouchette strikes temporary final damage 25%. So Dramatic Encounter can only hit 4 times. So this strike temporary final damage can get to a maximum of 100% final damage on your strikes after using 8 strikes, basically. What that means is, to maximize your damage, you want to use 8 strikes from any source. If you can use 8 of her strikes, somehow, that would be ideal. But it doesn't have to be from her. You want to use 8 strikes, and then after that, if you can, Shining Crush, her big finishing damage, will have the most modifiers and boosts as possible. Mortal Blast. So this is a little bit different if you don't have her Enlightens. Some of the effects here is because of the Enlightens. This counts as a strike. You deal 54 damage to all enemies 2 times and generate 1 temporary copy of a strike other than the last played strike, and reduce its rhythmic cost by 1. So what this means is it can't copy itself, so you can't Mortal Blast, Mortal Blast, Mortal Blast, but it will do any other strike. So whether it's Mouchette's strike or a different strike that you played earlier on the turn, let's say you used Hellet's strike, it would copy that strike. So when you're seeing what's in your cards, you want to try to always end on Mouchette's strike, just in case the next turn is going to be your burst turn. Mortal Blast can copy that. So whenever I'm sequencing and I'm playing Mouchette, whether I have Mortal Blast in my hand or not, I try to sequence so her strike is the last thing I play that turn, at least in terms of strikes. You can do strike for Mouchette and then play other cards that aren't counted as strike, and it doesn't particularly affect this card. Shining Crush. This is her really big hit. A lot of the damage is... This can deal a lot of damage, but sometimes it's best to not use it at all if it means getting many, many more little strikes. And we'll go over that in the gameplay a little bit later. I will do the gameplay as a separate video, so this one is quite a bit shorter than the gameplay. Counts as strike. It deals 108 damage to random enemies 5 times, and you gain 30 alias. So the way... We'll go over the exalt real quick. Shining Tornado. Deal 895 damage to all enemies. This turn, Mouchette's hit count +1, and all Awakeners' strike damage plus 488. So, hit counts. So your strike is going to hit an additional time. Your Shining Strike will go from 5 to 6. Your Dramatic Encounters will go from 3 to 4. So the Shining Tornado makes it so all of these deal more hits. So whatever number is on this card, it's going to deal that twice. You won't get the Alien Misgen twice, but you'll get that extra hit. What this means is while none of Mouchette's cards say gains 5x strength bonus or 150% more strength effective, her cards don't need to say that because of how strength scales with each hit. She scales extremely well with strength. If you have 5 strength on her and it's hitting 6 times, it's basically 30 strength. 6 times 5, 30. So strength scales very, very well with her, but so does a lot of other things. Strike is a very common term in the game. A lot of Awakeners have things that affect their strike or have other cards that count as strikes. And when we're going over the teams, we'll go over a few more synergies. But she is a unit that has a lot of lasting power because any new unit who potentially enhances strike, whether it's their own strike or somebody else's strike, will have synergies with her, as well as any relics, wheels, covenants in the future that affect strike. She is there. We'll go over the Enlightens now. Mist Realm Traveler. For every 1% death resistance Mouchette and her equipped wheels and covenants have, her crit rate and crit damage is plus 0.15%. Each time death resistance is triggered, the crit damage provided by Mist Realm Traveler is plus 100% for this battle. So the more death resistance she has, the more crit rate and crit damage she has, basically. And when you trigger DR, she gains additional crit damage. If you have 100% DR, you'll get 15% crit rate and crit damage. So if you have an SSR death resistant wheel, that does give you 100%. If you have 2 SSR death resistant wheels on her, you would have 200%, and so that's 30% crit rate, crit damage. And then if your covenant is 100% DR, which you can get with stats, that's 300, so that's 45% crit rate and crit damage that her passive can utilize. Don't hyper focus on this. Don't go for that 300. death resistance, because there's better builds for her where you dabble a little bit in it, but you're not hyper focused on that death resistance. Her E2 is her main stopping point, a lot of people would suggest, although I do really like her E3 as well. Mortal Blast generates one temporary copy of the last played other strike and makes extra rhythmic cost -1. This makes Mortal Blast integral to your combo. So her E2 is definitely a major stopping point, or a major milestone for her in Enlightens. Cleave out a future. Shining Tornado grants Mouchette +1 hit count this turn. This is where each one of your attacks get more hits. This definitely makes a huge difference because if you use 5 of her cards, you're getting 5 of those additional hits. And then Tornado of Annihilation. This is her Overexalt. Hit counts +1. For each death resistance triggered this battle, +1 additional hit. So this is just for her Exalt is hitting more times. So her Exalt is hitting at least 1 additional time, but if you have DR'd, a couple more times. And then you set the arithmetic cost of the next Shining Crush, that's the 3 cost, to 0. And then first release each battle additionally inflicts Fainted on all enemies. Fainted is different than Stun, and they can stack. So Mouchette and Aegis can stack their stuns, which is very strong. You don't need her Overexalt for Mouchette to deal really strong damage, but Mouchette's Overexalt will always have utility. Being able to stun an enemy is very, very powerful. Being able to stack it with Aegis is also really nice. So if you do really like her and you want to go for her Overexalt, this will always have utility in the future, whether you're focusing on Mouchette damage or you're somewhere down the line, there's a Overexalt Mouchette build where she is just there for Overexalt. It will always have utility. Her talent over here, Dramatic Encounter. For every 2 strike cards played, Mouchette performs a pursuit, randomly dealing 1 instance of damage equal to 30% of her attack, counts as strike. This effect can trigger up to 4 times per turn. So she, when you play 2 cards, she will then randomly attack 2 strikes with 30% of her attack. Because it's her attack, it is recommended to get levels on her. The more levels you get on her, the more her attack rises, the better her passive is going to be. So as a DPS, you really do want to invest levels in her, maybe a little bit more than some other units. Her Soulforge aptitude, this is her Arc 2. This is another one of those extra multipliers that she just randomly gets. Mouchette's final damage against Dominator enemies. Dominator is the tag for practically every single boss in the game. So anytime you're in a boss fight, you're dealing 50% extra damage against that enemy. All Awakener Strike base damage plus 35%. And then after triggering death resistance, Mouchette gains 50 Alien Miss. So it's a great Soulforge to have. The extra boss damage, hands down, is just super powerful, and it works on practically all bosses. And what is the strongest enemies? The boss. So she just deals more damage versus the boss. So that's a basic overview of her kit. Let's go over a couple of her comps. Mouchette actually has... Well, before we go over the comp, let's go over the wheels real quick. So her personal wheel, Doomsday Rampage, it's quite good. It gives 50.4% death rate at E3. At max, this is a max death resistance, it gets 100.8. The wielder's exalt and pursuit base damage plus 60%. After playing any Awakener strike this turn, the wielder's strike damage temporarily plus 25% of the wielder's attack. This effect triggers up to 8 times per turn. Similar to her own Rouse and her talent, you want to play 8 strikes, and then you have the maximum bonus of this effect. It's not always easy to do that, and you're normally going to be low on Arithmetica after you play 8 strikes. So your 9th and 10th strike, which has all the bonus, you might not have the Arithmetica cost to use that, which is not really a big deal. Light of Intellect is her SR wheel. Get 50.4 death resistance at max. Team Unique, after the first posse release in each turn, there's a 100% chance to draw 1 strike of the wielder. Being honest, neither of these are that great for her. Her Doomsday Rampage, if you have a way to get 90% or more crit rate, this is better than Lily's wheel. And so you would need to be able to get 90% crit rate, while this wheel providing only, if you keep it at base, 7.5% crit rate. So you would need to find 82% crit rate from other sources for this to be reliably better in terms of damage than going Lily's wheel. A really fun interaction with Light of Intellect. This wheel goes really well with Horla, because when you posse, you get Horla's Strike, and then Horla's Strike can put you into Anger Stance, and so as soon as you posse, bam, you get free Horla Strike. Horla Strike, you go into Anger Stance, and so it works really well together. But neither of these are particularly great on her. We'll go over her better wheels in some of the comps. From the Mist Realm, this is her posse. This is one of her better posses, but she is capable of using other posses. She doesn't have to use this one, but this one is really good. You draw 2 strike cards. Even if you don't have strikes in the deck, it'll draw from the discard pile. If Mouchette is in the team, reduce their Arithmetica cost by 1. Just great all around. It also counts cards that count as strikes. So all of her cards besides the defense count as strikes. You could potentially draw those. Let's go over the pure comp. Pure comp is very common. It's quite strong, and it is the team composition is very lenient. I'm running a Mouse's Wisdom here, but you could run her own posse if you wanted to do that. This is Lily's wheel, Grace Through Pain. Team Unique, the wielder's poison and shield generation plus 15%. Obviously, that doesn't have a huge effect. But the wielder's strike, crit rate, and crit damage is increased by 35%. And you gain a shield equal to 7% of max HP when you use a strike. The shield effect can only activate once per turn. This, at my level, is normally about 130-ish shields. But that 130 shield is every turn, every strike. Which is just really effective over long battles. You know, you're fighting the mobs. You get that extra 130 shield. It definitely comes in handy. 35% free crit rate and crit damage at max. I know this is a limited wheel, so most of you won't have it at max. But with 100% death resistance, this is giving an additional 15% crit rate and crit damage. So all in all, just a maxed this wheel is giving 50% crit rate and crit damage to Mouchette. That's just huge. And then the shielding here is great. Most likely a lot of you are going to be using Grace Through Plane at E3, and Celestial Beast here will be at plus 12. This is a welfare wheel, so you can buy it from the shop 3 every single month. You'll get this at plus 12 in 4 months if you're focusing it. This is Lotan's personal wheel. Team Unique. The base damage of the wielder's strike and exalt is increased by 50%. After the wielder uses strike, they gain a 5% temporary crit rate, stacking up to 3 times per turn. Upon reaching 3 stacks, they gain 15% temporary crit damage. So you get 15% crit rate, 15% crit damage. Your strikes are doing 50% more, and you also get whatever crit damage this will be at max. Since I'm only at plus 5, it's not showing you the full picture here. But these two pair really well together. But Celestial Beast is definitely a very good wheel to have with Mouchette. The rest of the team for Pure: Hamelin, Ramona, Riker. As you see here, very good. Some other options, though. Lotan is pretty good. She has a lot of strike synergy. But this is mainly Mouchette making DPS Lotan better. And it's not Lotan making Mouchette particularly any better. Ogier is great. Good shields, good strength stacking. G-Doll here, Doll Inferno. She's pretty strong, giving more healing, which the Pure here doesn't have any healing. You're kind of relying on the stage healings, and then killing the enemies really fast. Another good pair is Lily. Lily is a fantastic pair. Good sustain. She works really well with Mouchette. Let me show you real quick. This is Aurora's team, and he utilizes Lily in a lot of his Mouchette comps. This is for this week's D-Tide. And as you can see, he uses Crimson for his Covenant, but he's got that plus 12 Lotan wheel and the Lily wheel here. Lily's got the Papa Santa and more defensive build here. And then even the Posse voice in your head shows just kind of how flexible she really can be. And so that's kind of the Pure. Flexible with the Posse, flexible with the team comp. You can use a few of these and swap them out. If you don't have Hamelin, you don't have Riker, you have Lily and you have Ogier or whatever, you can use that, and it will work. This is the Caro. It is also flexible, but I would highly recommend not changing out Helot's, because Helot and Mouchette work really well together. To show that, we'll have to go into Helot's kit here. Her Exalt, so just whenever you use the Exalt, in this turn, strike damage plus 100%. This can definitely be easily missed because her Exalt has a lot of text. But after you Exalt, all of your strike damage is doing double damage, basically. This does stack additively with Mouchette's Rouse. So if you have Mouchette's Rouse, you use 8 strikes. That's 100% strike damage. This would be 200% strike damage. So they're not separate multipliers. They are the same bucket there. Another nice addition with Helot is Lasting Loathing is counted as a strike, and it draws 2 strikes. So you play this, and you have 3 strikes available to you. for stacking up strikes. Her Shattering Strike is terrible. Get rid of it, sell it, delete it, whatever. You don't want it in the deck. You do want to delete it because it counts as a strike. So anything that draws strikes, it could potentially draw this, and not having it in the deck is great. And then the Devour effect here, draw 3 strikes, temporarily hand them at +2. So if you have an Embryo in hand and your hand is completely full, you can use this and not go over the limit or whatever, the hand size limit, because the Embryo is going to -1, and then you're drawing 3 +2 hand limit. So if you don't have to worry about hand management if you're at max and you use the Devour here. So that is why Hela is highly recommended. Thighs is Thighs. You should know what Thighs does. Very powerful unit. Copies. You can copy the strikes, or you can copy the Shining Crush. Aegis, Stun, as I said before, stacks on this. Aegis and Thighs, even, are both interchangeable. Let's say this is for D-Tide. You don't want to use Thighs. You can swap her out for a Hamlin. You can swap her out for Riker. You can swap her out for Ogier or Ramona. Very flexible here for the Caro. And then the Ultra Comp here. Again, this is very flexible as well, and I'm just kind of showing off a few different covenants. Dream of Medicine. You could use Dream of Medicine. You can use April Tribute. You can use Crimson Pulse. Extremely flexible unit. Kasaya here. A lot of people don't know, but her Telekinesis, the 0 cost, is treated as a strike. And so there's lots of good synergy with there, having a 0 cost strike. Poof is great with adjusting your hand and getting what you need in your hand. She draws 4 with her Exalt. She just pairs really well with Mouchette. Horla, using the Light of Intellect to get that strike after you Posse. Very strong there. The damage boost is really good as well. Tinkt doesn't have any innate strike synergies, but Tinkt gives a lot of good crit rate and crit damage. Her Exalt can give you 17% crit rate, crit damage, and her 3 cost can give you another 15% if you play it normally, 45 if you leap it. This is both the turn before, so you have to use this the turn before you do your big damage. But good crit rate, crit damage, -5 cost. You want to play a lot of cards, so 5 cards randomly lose 1 arithmetic cost. Strikes are only 1. If your hand is full of strikes, make them all 0. That gives you more Arithmetica for Mouchette. But both Horla and Tinkt can be flex spots. Clem is a great choice to be here. You could use, again, any of the Pures. There's so many good Pure supports. Hamlin, Lily, Ramona. You can use all of them in slot of one of these units. But that kind of about wraps it up for the Mouchette information, her team, her what wheels and stuff you want to use for her. The moral of the story, she's extremely flexible. You can use different wheels on her. You can use different covenants, even the Posse. She doesn't have a rigid single one best in slot comp. I personally like the Hela comp the most. I use something more like this, just because I find this very comfortable here. But she is very flexible. You can slot in the Awakeners that you personally feel pair best with whatever build you're going for. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I will go do a separate video if you want to watch that, doing a stage run with her. And you can kind of see how to survive the earlier stages, getting up to the boss, and how to play at the boss fight. Have a great day. Peace.